New York City being one of the most diverse places in the world, and they all
For
come
sure.
into the cathedral, whether they live here or are tourists and are visiting New York. They come in, and we can tell the difference whether they're treating it as a museum or whether they're really treating it as a place where they come in
Where
and
they
they
can pray.
realize it's God's house.
Welcome to the Father Leo Show, where we are dishing out faith, culture, and commentary. And our special guest is going to be talking about what it means to be the rector of basically the world city here in New York City. His name is Father Salvo. He's the rector of St. Patrick's Cathedral, as well as the rector of the Basilica of the St. Patrick's Old Cathedral. It's now a basilica. He's originally from Nicaragua, served as director of vocations, and now does a lot of work with evangelization. So, Father, thank you for joining me.
No, thank you, Father.
So I just want to know, in full disclosure, you asked if we were going to be editing all of this, and I just want to know, what were you going to say that needs to be edited?
You never know.
Well, is that because you are the rector, you've got to be careful, or is it because you're from Nicaragua?
Both.
So let's actually go back. I want to kind of hear a little bit about your vocation. I mean, you don't have to go through the whole
Of course.
spiel, but the fact is, I think you might be the first Nicaraguan rector of the cathedral.
Oh, definitely. First Hispanic rector of the cathedral.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I
Yes.
mean, in the past, you ain't Irish.
I know.
So
I'm not O Salvo.
exactly. That would be kind of neat. But the idea of you coming in as in such a prominent position, where did your vocation come from?
Well, when it comes to our vocations, it's like falling in love. So there's it's years of just the pulling in of our Lord. But then when he really wants you, he makes it very clear.
So
And
how did he make it clear for you?
I was actually living in the neighborhood where the basilica is.
The old
Like,
St. Pat's.
The old St. Pat's, like across the street, really.
Okay, that's actually a fancy, cool part of town. It's very hipstery.
It is. It's a
So
fun
were
place.
you a hipster?
That's where when I moved from Nicaragua. I had a cousin that lived there, and then he moved, and I took over his lease, and that's how I ended up there.
Okay.
But then that's when I started going to daily mass, and that's where I really started to listen. It took me moving from Nicaragua to Soho in New York City
Sure.
to finally listen to my vocation, because God is a God of surprises.
Yeah.
And that's
How old were you?
I was in my late 20s.
In your late 20s.
I was a later vocation.
And what were you doing in Soho?
So
Besides just hanging out as a hipster.
I worked at the time for this architectural firm, but I started a company in Nicaragua that I was doing with my brother. So I was
As an architect.
no that my company in
architectural
Nicaragua was a financial company. That was just
Financial.
what I was doing, like part time.
Holy cow, you've got a lot going on here.
Yeah.
So finance, architect, hipster, now daily mass attendant. And did you have a sense of faith when you were in Nicaragua?
Oh yes, I mean that's really where it started, and I would. When I was there, I would go on mission trips for like weeks at
So
a
you weren't
time.
opposed to church.
I would, love to do all types of like charitable works. I love the traditions. That's something that's very important for me. The traditions of a Catholic country that goes beyond just the faith, but just the culture, which includes everything from the way that the liturgical season is celebrated with the procession and the food. So, for example, like the food of Lent, of Fridays in Lent, that
Water,
type of thing,
maybe with ice.
or shrimp and
See,
fries
You
and
went to
things
the, you
like
went to the
that.
good stuff.
Yeah.
It's Lent approved. It's just not penitential.
But it's there that it started, and I started seeing the joy and the beauty of the church, and that's where God started to pull me. But then I was pretty distracted while there, and then it took me moving to New York, which I felt God put me in my.
And you came to New York just because you wanted the opportunities, as has
I
father?
had the opportunity, and I felt God was, because of a few reasons, putting me here, and He made it so easy for me to move. And I came as an adventure. I mean, I'm like, the company that I started with my brother, that's a financial company, was going well. I'm having this opportunity to come and I can, come and see what it's like, maybe be here for a year or two. But then got other plans.
Yeah.
And then I found my vocation here, and then I discerned it as so did the church, and it made sense because I actually spent most of my life in the States. Because when I was younger, we had the war in Nicaragua and
Yeah.
so on. So I spent my childhood, a lot of it in Miami and so on. So I felt I know both cultures, both languages, both everything. So I thought,
Which is a big deal because when people come to America from a different culture, there is a real challenge in assimilation. It turns them off, it turns the people in the pews off. So you kind of you had it good.
yeah, thank God. I mean, God uses that any tragedy for
And even
good.
better,
Yeah.
you spoke the language of money. You understand finances. That's why you're the rector at the cathedral now.
Maybe.
No, I'd like to just, in your priestly ministry, you were ordained when?
In 2010.
2010.
Yes.
And since then, you were an associate pastor, then eventually pastor. You were director of vocations.
So I was ordained 2010. I was parochial vicar in St. Elizabeth in Washington Heights for
Okay.
a couple of years. Then I was director of vocations for 4 years.
Let's talk about that because I want to hear about your experiences of vocations in a multicultural city of New York. There's a lot going on here. First of all, how many parishes are there in this archdiocese? I'm quizzing you.
There's a few hundred.
A few
It's hard to
hundred.
keep up because they merge and
Sure. And how many priests are there that are viable to serve this?
there's around 300 something diocesan and then like the same number of religious priests.
This is huge. So there's like
I
about
think it's a huge archdiocese.
600 clergy, and it's probably even still not enough.
No, it's not. I mean, you can always, of course, use more. I mean, the archdiocese, you can really drive from, if you take from Staten Island to up north to the upper counties.
Yep.
It could take you like 4 hours to get from one point to another.
And that's
you're
without traffic.
And that's without traffic. And that's just in the archdiocese of New York, which you can go from Manhattan to the Bronx to more like country.
Honestly, when you're saying that,
towns.
you're giving me agita right now because I have had to do that. Go from Manhattan to the Bronx, and it is not easy. But so your work with vocations, I just want to hear what was it like trying to recruit young men? I mean, what was the method to try to get them to even think about it? Or did you just wait for them to come to you? What was your approach?
I mean, part of the job as vocations director is to promote vocations and to get young people to start listening, because basically it's all about them hearing the call. The call's going to come from God, and if it doesn't come from God, it's not really a vocation. So it's not like any promotional thing that we do is going to cause vocations.
Sure.
The important thing is that young people listen and care about listening to the vocation in this very distracted world that we
And what
live
did
in.
you do? Did you kind of create like retreats, or what was your approach?
Of course, it goes from everything to going to all the places where young people are, like high schools and everything, to talk about the vocation stories of that's so important to have. But then a very important part, and Cardinal Dolan told me this from day one, is to walk with the young men that already are listening to God's word and their call, because it's a very delicate time. And I remember, and I'm sure you remember that time in which it's like, is this really happening? Is this, and you're waiting to see how real it is, and then of course you also have to get in a way the discernment of the church,
Yeah.
of course, because it's not always a yes, even though you might feel it, but maybe the church doesn't feel like you're being called to it. And so it's a lot of going on there. So it's basically walking with them and helping them to basically be open to everything God has in store for them, and also to encourage them, because when I came into the seminary, it was almost like when I moved to New York, it's like, I'm feeling this, but if worst case scenario, it's going to be an amazing adventure that I'm always going to have with me if it doesn't work out, but it's worth a try.
Yeah.
And then of course, but once you try and it's meant to be, it's meant to be. So there's that extra push that they need to at least see it that way. It's like if you're, I mean, it's always been in our tradition that every young man and every young woman should be open to a vocation to the priesthood in the same way that, or religious life in the same way that everyone should be open to marriage. So it's not like something that we should be closed. So it's about encouraging them.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest fear was would I fit in the vestments? Really, that was
my biggest fear is like chanting in front of everyone on my own.
So go ahead, give it a little try.
No, I still have it.
Why don't we have you do the sequence for Easter?
No, you wouldn't want that.
Well, but you do have obviously some unique gifts with your international background, with your professional background, and I think that that's something that we have to remind future priests that we are calling you not just to be faithful, but to tap into your gifts and use them.
That's right. I mean, we have to bring ourselves with all of our strengths and weaknesses to the picture. I mean, that's the only way we can come.
All right, so strength and weakness. You open that door.
Well, we don't have to like go in it though.
This is the editing part. No, but I want to, because you were named after vocations. You were a pastor, and then you were named the rector of one of the most prominent cathedrals in probably one of the most powerful cities in the world. I mean, they call New York City the world's capital. There's a lot going on in this city, and smack dab in the middle of it is this cathedral. I mean, How did you feel when you said, you got the phone call? What was that like? You're sitting there, you're playing golf, and all of a sudden what were you doing when you got the call to come in? And
I mean, it's a shock. I had to say something that happened though. They send out the protocol letter,
Sure.
like if anyone is interested to write in. And when I saw it, of course my initial reaction was like, I'm never going to write in, and I did not write in.
Sure.
Because I hadn't been ordained. I just didn't
2010, that's not
I
a
just
long,
didn't
long
feel
time.
like it was right anyway for me at the moment to write in. I mean, but it tugged at my heart. It tugged at my heart like, wow, that would be very exciting and something very, beautiful. So I told Jesus, I prayed and I told Jesus, you know what, this is tugging at my heart, which is always a sign. It's also a good thing to know about vocations.
And
it's
discernment.
Like, if you get a tug in your heart, that's Jesus, because
or you need an antacid.
One of the two. So I'm like, Jesus, if you this is tugging at me, and for not that long, but and if you want me there, you tell Cardinal Dolan, and you make it happen. And Cardinal Dolan, it was his idea, which I like to think it's because also Jesus helped him get the idea.
Sure.
And so when he called me, I was obviously very surprised. And at the same time, I'm like, oh, Jesus, we prayed about this.
Yeah, so because some people would think that you were, let's admit, priesthood, there are many personalities. And in the diocesan priesthood in particular, some assignments are more plush than the other. Even though this is a prominent place, I wouldn't call this plush. There's a lot of work that goes on.
Oh, of course.
In a cathedral. Were you were ordained only 2010. Did you feel prepared because of your background that you could tackle this position?
No, I mean, not prepared per se. Because you can never be prepared. But I just, in the same way, I've always been one that never asks for anything nor denies anything.
Okay.
When it comes to
well, you're also a politician. Wow. I'm kidding with that.
So like, I'll ask Jesus, because then it's up to him.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to write. I've never asked for any assignment or anything. And I'm never denied, because I see that as the Holy Spirit would like talking through our bishop, which is what our being obedient to our bishop means. It's
Sure.
about doing God's will. So I'm like, I didn't ask for this except for my little prayer, but I didn't write in. I didn't ask for it in any way. I'm not going to deny it either.
Sure.
And so I'm just going to trust.
And
that God's gonna help.
ultimately, it's just a job that you have to do as a priest.
Exactly. Yes.
You know,
and it's been extremely exciting.
Yeah. So you're, you know, this is something that hopefully doesn't make you feel uncomfortable, but you are also assuming a position, and there were some challenges. You know, it was a challenging transition to some degree.
Of course, and I was in the South Bronx in the parish for almost 6 years, and I loved it there. I loved my people. I wasn't expecting, but you know, everyone was happy. I mean, it was.
So what is your most important job besides getting people to heaven and paying the bills?
Well, I think you covered two very important ones right there.
Okay, interview's over. We're done.
But speaking of getting people to heaven, I think one of the most beautiful and at the same time most important aspects of the job is the fact that it does have an outreach that is amazing, and it's very humbling, because literally every day in mass, not only do you have thousands of people, we have 6 million people that enter through the doors of the cathedral each year.
Show off.
Just FYI.
And I counted every one of them.
So that's 6 million souls. No, but
the amount of tourists that come.
Exactly.
I mean, it is on the register of things to do and see.
Of course. And then, but on top of that, you have the live stream, which is now a huge part of our ministry. It's something that I inherited, and it was a very genius Holy Spirit move that the cathedral they had installed already, like a very professional system of cameras and so on to have virtual masses, to live stream masses.
Prior to COVID?
Prior to COVID.
Wow.
So.
But did they use it?
Yeah, of course. and so when COVID came and then, everyone had to rush, the cathedral already had it in place. It was
just normal.
But plus you had, it was a beautiful place. You have Cardinal Dolan. You have so many people started to follow the St. Patrick's Cathedral masses. So now we have thousands of people that are what we call virtual parishioners. Of course, they're parishioners of their churches wherever they are, but they also now tune into daily mass, which is something that we must be grateful for. And so now you have
how many daily masses do you have? Just one or two?
Live streamed?
No, just at the cathedral.
Oh, we have 7 a day. 7
masses a day.
A day on weekdays, plus confessions daily.
Wait, the bigger question is there a collection?
Of course.
Well, I mean, because
it takes $1 million a month to run the cathedral.
That is key, because a lot of people don't realize you're, first of all, in the most prestigious part of New York City. I mean, right across the street from Rockefeller Center, basically.
We were there first, by the way. But yes.
Well, snap on that. But that's true, because I remember the history. I actually filmed an episode at St. Pat's during COVID, as a matter of fact, and it was still busy. It was shocking. And to know that in the past, the priest who kind of started all of that the bishop who started all of that, he knew that it would become a metropolitan. It was like a sheep farming area at one point. It was just pasture.
It was.
And now look at you.
Yeah.
Your mom and dad must be very proud. But what your job as being able to pay for it all, and obviously you rely on the donations. Do you get any support from the city, since it is a monument for the city itself?
Not financially, but they are very supportive in the sense, for example, the NYPD is extremely supportive, and they have someone assigned there at all times.
Yeah.
I mean, it is an icon of the city as well, but they're very good, and they really care about everything that we do and protecting whenever there's any type of issues that may be happening in the city. They're just very supportive, when we need to get things done and so on.
What's been the most challenging part of your job, besides trying to smile through it all? Which I think comes natural for you, but I mean... But I mean, there are challenges. I'm sure there are times when you close the door of the sacristy and be like, "What the mother of God?" And what are those moments? I just kind of want to hear it, and don't lie.
Well,
Since no one's really watching this anyway, so we'll, including the cardinal.
no, I mean the challenges. I think it's just the challenges that any parish will have,
Any
but
parent.
just in a bigger scale. So sometimes, in a parish, sometimes it's the in and out problems of the day that we have to just basically, the little fires that we have to quench.
How many staff are on?
We have a lot of staff, and we have an excellent staff. We have like 90 people, like 95 people that work in the cathedral, which, by the way, makes it all very possible.
Of course.
So in a way, it's and I've seen this from day one. It seems like a big thing on my shoulders, but it's really a very shared thing between 95 people, and especially Cardinal Dolan.
But it's a cathedral, and in a way, it's a parish for many people who come. But how is it a parish? I mean, do you have outreach and evangelization and the soup kitchen kind of component? I mean, what are the pastoral activities there?
We do. It's a little bit different in that sense because we do have a base of parishioners, maybe like 1,000 people that
On the
consider
books?
that are in the books,
Okay.
which is really nothing for
Nothing,
something
yeah.
like that. But that being said, our parishioners is just our visitors, and then the virtual parishioners are very important because they tune in each and every day, and they're watching. And they compliment, and they also criticize if they need to. They'll write emails, and they'll say what they like and what they don't like, and we get a lot of that.
But do they have electronic deposits?
Yes, they send. They're very generous.
So you mentioned the budget. I mean, I hate to ask this, but for context, because a lot of people think, look at all this, you could just sell this and give it to the poor. I mean, what do you say to stuff like that?
I think that's the most unthought of comment that anyone can make, because remember that the church is the home for everyone, including the poor.
Correct.
And
they are there.
And they are there.
They are
and we have a few homeless people that for decades spend their days in the cathedral where they know they are welcomed and respected. And
that is a really beautiful thought because, being very respectful but honest, you'll walk into the cathedral and you will smell them because they are homeless. They don't have the ability to be hygienic, but none of your guards bother them.
no, and we offer them help.
It's a really beautiful thing to see the rich and the poor
It's
there.
everyone.
Whether they're praying, they are there.
It's everyone. And then so we had to remember that the beauty of the church, the physical beauty of the church buildings is something that's for everyone. So I learned something very important once, that in the early church, in the early centuries of the church, and through the church's tradition, many times when they were about to build a church in a poorer neighborhood, they would actually raise the budget for art, because the thinking is everyone needs beauty and everyone deserves to have beauty in their lives aside from the beauty of creation. But the church is the one place that everyone can come into, and they know that they are welcome, and they know it's their home that they share with God, and so it's beautiful, and it might be the only beautiful place that's welcome. They're not. For example, these people might not be welcomed at the beautiful restaurants or the beautiful hotels or the beautiful homes and so of New York City.
Sure.
But they are welcome at St. Patrick's Cathedral and any church, and they are there, and they come in, and it's their home, and they're surrounded by beauty. Therefore, it's not like we're going to sell it all. It was made there for the glory of God, but also for all those who come into it as their spiritual home, all his children.
And as the rector of the cathedral, are you automatically the rector of Old St. Pat's, the Basilica in Soho?
No, that's something that happened recently, because we're trying to make.
Well, let's hear this. I want to hear.
No, well, they're not, of course, it's not
two
like
separate
they're
things.
two separate. They're not
Completely.
merged or anything, but it was, of course, the always the intent to have a legacy between the two, and again, both in both places. There's a lot of visitors that come from all over the world. Over there, it's an extremely interesting place to also like go visit and take tours.
Historically, it's
Historically,
amazing.
you have the catacombs. You have just a historical place of
Do you
everything that
think that the
happened there.
people at that in that old St. Pat's feel overshadowed by St. Patrick's Cathedral here in Manhattan? I mean, or do they care? They're like, we're glad we don't have all these visitors. We can just make this place a prayer. I mean, what's the sense of that connection?
It's more of a parish feel because it's much smaller, but we have a lot of visitors there as well, and that's beautiful. We love that. So we want to like remind people that this is a continuation. It's not like okay, it's a continuation of the original and now the main cathedral, but it's a beautiful history of both. And and to me, it was very like I was telling you when I moved to New York City, I lived across the street from it. So
Yeah.
it's so
It's a
that
spiritual home for you.
that exactly. And when I came and I tell young people, I remember being here in the pews where you are now, and I remember, feeling homesick. I would go to the church and I would feel at home again. The Sunday scaries, you're in the church and you get peace. Anything that a discernment of your vocation in your life, you go to the church and you receive the Holy Spirit and to guide you. So it was there that I finally said yes to my vocation. It was from there that I went to seminary. And therefore it was a very beautiful place for me, and I hope that's going to be the case for
From pastoral duties as the rector of the cathedral, it can feel like it's all administration. And I hear this from a lot of priests, administration almost takes over the pastoral. How do you get that pastoral feel again?
actually I think it's stronger than ever in many ways.
Wow.
Because to me, I mean, I have first of all my faith in the church. I've always been very hopeful, and I've always had faith that God is in charge of the church and His people, and therefore I know it's a reality, a sad reality. You know that attendance is lower, and that people are more nominally Catholic, and so on and so on, and those are stats. But I've been very, very blessed. First of all, when I was in the South Bronx, it was a very vibrant parish,
Yeah.
Hispanic parish. But now in the cathedral, seeing the 6 million people that come in through the doors and seeing their all walks of life. I mean, here it's all walks of life, all nationalities, everything, all age groups, everything that you can imagine, and everything that it's humanity, it's the world, and it might be the most
It is.
in the planet in that sense.
Totally.
When it comes to New York City being one of the most diverse places in the world, and they all
For
come
sure.
into the cathedral, whether they live here or are tourists and are visiting New York. They come in, and we can tell the difference whether they're treating it as a museum or whether they're really treating it as a place where they come in and
they
they
can
realize
pray.
it's God's house.
Yeah.
And that's what they come. They pray. You see them like really praying, lighting candles. They attend mass. They are in awe of everything that they're seeing, and they just you can see that yearning of God. And so to me, that is such a hope for what really is at the end of the day. The reality, because even though the stats are the stats, but there's still millions of people that really care about their faith.
6 million.
Exactly.
Now,
But we're talking. So those are it's years. So it's not only six. It's not 6 million that.
exactly in one year.
It's
I mean, we're
6
talking
million in one year, but it's not the same 6 million people. So we're talking about 60 million people that can come in a matter of a decade. All those people care about the faith.
Gosh, all that math, it's a lot
I
of
know,
math.
without finances.
With your finance guy. Speaking of finance, let's talk about Cardinal Dolan because he's a dear man to me as the rector of my seminary, and he's been very welcoming to me just whenever I visit St. Pat's, and he is a larger than life personality. What's it like serving with him there? Because he's all over the place, but I know that he's there.
Oh no, it's actually one of the greatest joys of my role there. I mean, he is such an amazing priest and person, he
And he's your boss, so you have to say these nice things.
because he might be listening.
Oh, he will be.
No, he really is. We all have a great love for him, and all the clergy here in New York. We are so blessed to have him as our.
It comes with a lot of Midwest values. And then, to come into a city like this where politics can sometimes replace religion. I'm just being very honest. I'm sure it wasn't easy, but he's been able to maneuver that well. Your thoughts?
Oh, I mean, and he's the real deal. I mean, he has the joy of the Holy Spirit, and that's something that is palpable. One thing that you know and I know is that when you know him, it's some people might think, oh well, he's like that in public because he's great at people. He's like that all day long. He's even funnier and more joyful when he's like off the cuff, it's like that's who he is, and he never tries to be anything different, and that's why
you find
God
yourself
uses
having
him so
to,
much.
when you got in there, did you find yourself having to kind of change yourself, or did you feel like you could be 100%?
No, I had to be. I mean, that's if he's being 100% himself, then I can be 100% myself. So I think we all have to, and that's the only way we can really serve the Lord is being who we are.
Do you think that this position changed you in any way? Are you more like, hey, I'm the rector of the cathedral?
I hope not. If I am, I had to get some little humble pie, but I hope not.
And how do you stay humble then? Because this is, again, a prominent position. And I'm not focusing on it because it's prominent. I'm focusing on it because it's realistic. I mean, they see you're the face, in a sense, for the pastoral activity of the cathedral. How do you stay rooted to the people and the service as a priest?
Well, I mean, how can we? I mean, at the end of the day, we are priests. I mean, and these aren't political roles or roles that you get because of this.
I mean, you have seen priests in prominent positions; they'll almost kind of lose their priestly zeal, their affection and such. I mean, you've seen it, so.
But it can happen. It's a real danger. But basically, if you always remember that we are priests, and that's really our number one identity, no matter where we are, and it's to serve God's people, then if there's should be no room for pride.
Okay, so let's get to the brass tacks here. What are the best restaurants around the area? I mean, where do you go for a nice meal? Because I know you have, you coming from Nicaragua, you have a great food tradition, and now you're in New York. There's a great food tradition. What do you do to kind of celebrate the?
Actually, for the Hispanic food, I do miss the South Bronx.
So you take the F train up there.
When it comes to the Hispanic food, but of course, there's so many great restaurants around here. Just a block away, we have Fresco by Scotto. That one is not only is it good, it's
this
fun.
episode is brought to you by Fresco.
we have.
But you have it around there.
We have a lot of restaurants in the area, and now, of course, in the old cathedral, there's a lot of restaurants
there's more there. It seems, to be honest with you, it does feel like
Little
a
Feet,
neighborhood.
Chinatown. There's so much going on there, and a lot of trendy restaurants.
What do you do to relax? I mean, what do you do because people ask this all the time of me, and to be honest with you, I kind of don't know how to relax. I'm just confessing that now. I'll go to the one of the many hours of confessions you offer there at the cathedral.
Oh, you're always welcome to, by the way. We could always use the help.
Oh, okay.
They start at 12 today, by
All
the
right,
way.
okay. Let's get this on the road then. Put me to work. But what do you do to, I mean, do you have to get away to relax?
I'm blessed that I actually, since my family's in Nicaragua, I can't go home off.
Yeah.
So I'm blessed that I have a little house in Connecticut, in a place called Essex, Connecticut, where I go for my days off, and I can
Just
and
be away.
be away, and have very good friends. To me, relaxing is to be with, like, being with my good friends and family when I
Because
can.
it can be very, very demanding in a city like this. To be honest with you, I come to New York and I feel stressed just getting from one appointment to the other. I can't imagine what it's like here. You also, I've noticed also that you also have an online presence with some apologetics. Can tell me a little bit about that work.
Well, going back to the ministry, I feel that if we have all these platforms to evangelize, we have to use them as best as we can. And
This is a new thing. Do tell. You've just brought the church into the modern world here. This is amazing. But when did you start doing it?
as soon as I started, pretty much, we needed to the technology was all there,
Yeah.
and so we needed to take advantage of the technology.
So what do you do? What are some of the presentations?
So every week we come up with a new reflection about anything, usually what's going on in the liturgical calendar, or whatever is going on, and it's also a way to get people to know you better and everything, as you do. So, but you have a much more bigger following than.
People don't care about what I have to say. They just want the recipe. They just invite me over to cook for them. But do you have some parishioners?
By the way, you're welcome to come and cook something at the cathedral any
Okay,
day.
can we edit that out?
We expect it now.
You know, I would, okay, this is for the record. I would love to. I think that it would be an interesting thing. I've always wanted to bring the food truck out here and just kind of bank it in front and just say, hey, guess what? We're doing a weekend of just feeding people body, mind, and spirit. That's obviously a big deal for me and for you.
Actually, that'd be amazing.
It kind of would be amazing. We're kind of doing work as we're working.
Yeah, we're planning.
This
This
is-
is what we're supposed to do.
This is frightening. I'm actually getting a little nervous now.
By the way, that's one of the funnest parts about being in the cathedral too. That you can dream up
Yeah.
really great things, and you can do them, and it's gonna be fun. That would be an awesome one.
And as we have a few minutes, I kind of want to talk about your family because prior to all of this, you mentioned that you have a food background. You're in the ice cream business. What else are you involved in? Tell me about the ice cream because
So, in the 1940s in Nicaragua, my grandfather started the first industrial ice cream and dairy factory.
unbelievable.
So basically, he introduced ice cream to Nicaragua. So it was called Esquimo. So in Nicaragua, whenever anyone asks for an ice cream, it's like saying, give me a Coke or a Kleenex." It's like a household name is Esquimo.
Esquimo.
Yes, we have since like 8 years ago sold the company to after like 70 something years of having
Wow.
it in the family. But I grew up in an ice cream family, milk and everything, but ice cream being the main thing. And I remember how fun it was, as a kid to walk into these freezers and
You were the Eskimo kid.
yeah. And I remember having the taste tests, when they were coming up with a new flavor.
Get out.
Yeah. And like, giving in
You were spoiled. That's
in that sense.
okay. So what is
One
your
birthday party.
What is your
People had
favorite
to come
flavor?
to it.
Go ahead. What's your favorite flavor?
In of our ice cream, we have this one. It's a cocoa bean one that is not very common, but over there, since we have that's cacao
Yeah.
so it's like a cocoa bean. It's a cocoa flavor. It's delicious, and it's very particular to our.
Well, I will say this, that I've noticed that when priests have an experience of hospitality, whether it be providing food, providing some service, or, even working at a restaurant, that they have a style of pastoral ministry.
Oh, of course.
It's hospitable.
Oh, that's so basic and necessary, and the base of it all, because they're coming into God's house, and we're just like we're the servers in God's house, and we're the maitre d' in God's house, but it's God's house. So and that's a good point, because I tell people, I tell the staff, it's like, look around. We are surrounded by the best hotels and restaurants in the world, and we have to be at least on par, and if not better, at the cathedral, because this is God's house. So we have to keep it beautiful. We have to keep it hospitable, like you say. We have to make sure that everyone comes in and knows, so that we are happy that they are there, because God's happy that they are there.
Well, this has been fascinating. He's already assigned me an hour of confessions and
the food truck.
And the food truck. Yeah. But, you had a quote that you gave to me, and it says, it is a blessing to be here, obviously on your appointment. God is a God of surprises, and he appointed me here through the Cardinal's choice. I'll be honest with you. I think God has done a great choice. And having someone like you, because you're really representing an internationality of the people who come, and also providing them hospitality. Any final thoughts from you? And where can people learn about your videos and any other things, including the electronic funding that they can make deposits to?
St. Patrick's Cathedral YouTube channel.
Yeah. Okay, so how do you find it? Just say St. Patrick's Cathedral.
And the YouTube channel, St. Patrick's Cathedral, and that's where we have everything from, of course, we have all the other media, but that's where you can see the mass every day. That's where you can see all the videos and anything special that's happening. So we have a lot of content, because a lot is going on there always. So it's very inspirational, and that's something I encourage.
Well, again, thank you so much. Our special guest today has been Father Enrique Salvo, the rector of St. Patrick's Cathedral, as well as the Old St. Pat's Basilica. He's doing so much good for the church, who comes to the world's capital city, and in a way, the world's cathedral. So it's in definitely good hands. Father, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you next time on the Father Leo Show, where we're dishing out faith, culture, and some commentary. God bless.